Specifically to those of you in the Facebook group who are newer in their business journey. And the reason that I would like to have this discussion today is because I was actually asked yesterday, um, how long did it take when I was first overhauling, I guess you could say, the last workshop that I bought, and how long did it take for you to start seeing a financial result? And so I thought we'd have a chat about that today because sure, there's a lot of you that are established long-term businesses here in your profitable auto repair shop group, but there's also a lot of business owners who are maybe 3 years or less, or have taken over a business that is established, but they're very young in their ownership. So it's for you guys today that this conversation is primarily for. But please hang around with me because there's always things that you can pick up. Hello to those of you who are on live with me. If you're on live, just type live in the comments so that I can see you. And if it's replay, let me know that too. We record that for our stats so we can see what time of day is best to get to most of you. So back in the day, we took over a workshop that was we knew was run down. The owner was past retirement age and he'd had trouble selling it because he'd had most of his business off the books. He was actually running 2 sets of books. It was quite scary when I actually went through it all. So we were getting the business for a really good price. It took a little bit of time to take over though, and in that time, the owner had managed to lose a good chunk of work, or was simply turning it away because he was too tired. His hands would rip up easily, and he just decided, well, I've got this business sold, so I can probably take my foot off the pedal. What did that mean for us when we took over? There was next to no turnover. So the turnover that was coming, and if you've read my book before, you would have heard me tell this or read this story, that the customers that were coming to the workshop, they were very price sensitive. At the time, the labour rate was about $75 an hour, and we had people, looking on a minor service, asking us for a payment plan. So very undesirable. And where the workshop was, kind of in the middle of a very low socioeconomic area and a very wealthy area. So, we had to really target the wealthier side of town. And the things that we did in order to do that targeting couldn't cost any money because we didn't have any to spend on advertising. So I totally understand. And I think this is where people not spending the benchmark amount of their turnover on marketing, this is where it comes from, because in the beginning you don't have any money to spend, and you get used to doing grassroots stuff, but there does come a time when you should be allocating a certain benchmark percentage of your turnover to marketing, but that came much later. So the things that we had to do in order to get the attention of the wealthier market, I had to pound the pavement. I had to get out there and be a business development manager, so to speak, for the workshop. Just like the supplier reps are that come into you, they're representing the business that they represent. And I had to go out there and I had to drum up business for us. I had to go and, ask questions in business networks of, does anybody know this person in this business? Because I noticed that they had a few cars on the road. And I did that probably for the best part of 2.5 years. And the other things we did was notice that the other workshops in the area were effectively asleep. They were long-term businesses in the same family for 30 or 40 years. And that meant that they were used to their own word of mouth and their repeat business. So they weren't doing advertising. They weren't on Facebook. So we got in there and established a presence on Facebook, not knowing anything, anything huge about what worked, but what I did do was just continue to test and measure, and I learned as much as I could wherever I could. So I was always investigating online how to improve our standing on Facebook, how to make the website look better. Instagram wasn't a thing back then. We did do radio. We did a long-term branding campaign for radio, which did work for the first 12 months. It kind of petered out after that. But the answer to the question of how long did it take before we started to see a financial result from takeover day, it was about the 18-month mark where we started to be turning over enough money, paying the bills, and started to get into some kind of settled routine where there was a little bit of money left over. Does that mean that we didn't make any additional money in the first 18 months? No, but it was just all over the place and it wasn't predictable. So it was about the 18-month mark. I remember sitting down and I remember forecasting out for the following 12 months and what sales target I wanted us to hit each month. And back then it was some amount, like it started out, I remember, in the high 30s. So 30 something $1,000 a month is what we were aiming for. We'd started at zero and we were about 18 months in. So, but when I sat down to do that and put some real structure around it, that's where the business really started to grow and grew on to 7 figures in the following 18 months. So if you're wondering if it's hard work to get your startup business off the ground, yeah, it really, really is. And it takes time, and it takes a lot of brain power, and it takes a lot of grit. And you'll have some luck in there. In fact, you'll have a lot of luck. You'll see people, refer you to a few of their friends, and you think, yes, we're really starting to get some momentum here, but then it'll all dry up again and you'll be scratching your head. So the key to your activities when you're in this, the hard startup years, the first sort of 3 years, is consistency. It takes a minimum of 3 months for any marketing activity to start to show you any meaningful results. So you can't do something for a couple of weeks and then decide whether or not it's worked. It needs to be 3 months or more. So anything that you do, it's got to form part of a plan. And we have our engine roomers every time we come back to do our strategic planning. We have a chart that we have them fill in with their marketing activities that they're going to be doing for the next period, so that nothing is on the spur of the moment. It's not hit and miss. It is all planned, and that way you can come up with a budget for your marketing. You can decide what resources you require, what days you want to go live with the marketing, and what other businesses you could perhaps leverage off or work in conjunction with to make sure you get out there to a bigger audience. And that was one thing we also did very successfully is I had some great relationships with businesses in our local area that didn't have anything to do with automotive. And they had worked out Facebook early on, and we used to do combined competitions on both pages, and they would get the benefit of our audience and we would get the benefit of their audience, which was much, much bigger. We used to take drop all of our customers that were going to wait up to their cafe establishment, because it was a much nicer place to wait. Bought them a coffee, and they would always spend extra money, which was to the benefit of that business. So when I talk about those types of arrangements a lot when you're in startup, it's because they're very low cost and they're things that you can set up easily, but they really have long-term ramifications in your local area. And as we know, word of mouth is our cheapest and best form of advertising. So you've got to ramp that up in your early days. So there's the answer to the question, how long did it take to get some real traction? And we were basically starting from scratch. The answer was 18 months, but it was 18 months of really hardcore getting out there and taking us out into the community to be known and being consistent with our marketing as well. So again, it takes 3 months for any marketing strategy to start to tell you whether it's paying off or not. And you've always got to have something on the go, even if you think that you've got so much work that you don't need to advertise. One of my very first lives this year was to tell you how that's a fallacy if you believe that, because we have an 18% attrition rate on average every year for our customer base. So we always have to be replenishing that. And the way to do that is just having a consistent long-term branding campaign running in the background. So that's a little bit about me in the beginnings and the work we had to do to get up off the ground. I hope you found that useful, and I look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow. Have a great day.